Good morning. So today we're going to talk about when is the proper time to light Chanukah lights. So let's start by reading the Shulchan Aruch inside, and then I think we're just going to summarize the Mishnah Brura and come down to the final halacha, because this discussion actually contains somewhat complicated halachic concepts one thing called ben hashmashos, but we'll try to distill it and make everything very clear. And we'll discuss, is there a difference if somebody is using wax for their Chanukah lights or if they're using oil? So the Shulchan Aruch says, Taf Reish Ayin Beis, Aleph, 672:1, Ein manlikin ner Chanukah kodem sheteshka achama. One should not light Chanukah lights before sunset. Ela im sof shkiyasa, rather with the end of the shkia. We'll discuss what that is. Lo ma'achrim v'lo magdim. He shouldn't do it after and he shouldn't do it before. So what time is that? So we know that the Jewish day starts at night, but there's a debate, when does night start? So we have different time periods. One time period is called shkia. Shkia is when the sun sets, when we see the sun dipping below the horizon. So on the first night of Chanukah, that's going to be at 4:31. So that time changes throughout the year. Now there's another time called seis, which is when 3 stars come out. Some say, for many things, that's when night starts, which is later. It's darker out, there's less light, so you can see the stars. So for our purposes, seis is at 5:13. Okay. Now the in-between time period, let's say between 4:31 and 5:13, in simple terms, is subject to a debate. It's something called ben hashmashos. It's a time when it's not clear, does it belong to the previous day or does it belong to the next day? Now, even within that time of the in-between time of sunset and when the stars come out, there's even debates when ben hashmashos is. So we're not going to get into all that, but it's a very fascinating halachic discussion. If you're interested in it, we could learn it together if you want to give me a call. But we'll just talk about now, when is the proper time to light the candles? So right now we're just talking about the first time, the initial time when one should light. So actually, let's finish the Shulchan Aruch, because we're going to have to learn when. It's going to depend when do we light at the right time. Once we also have to know how long do the candles have to be lit for. So let's read a little bit further in the Shulchan Aruch. It says, She'im hu tarad yachal lahaktim plaga mincha. If one is busy, he can even light earlier from plaga mincha. We're not going to get into that right now. Ulamala. Ubavad shi'itim b'shemen ad shetich l'regel min hashuk. So the amount of oil that has to be in the candles has to last until shetich l'regel min hashuk. Shetich l'regel min hashuk is the time when people are still out in the marketplace. And the reason is because the whole purpose of lighting Chanukah lights is to publicize the miracle. So we want to make sure when we light them that there are people in the streets that will see and observe the Chanukah lights. So when is that? So that's a half hour after Tseis. So Tseis we mentioned, all these times are from Manalapan, New Jersey. If you live in a different place, it might be different. So Tseis we mentioned is 5:13. So the lights would have to last until 30 minutes after 5:13, which is 5:43. So now, what's the proper time to light? So we have all these times going on when night starts, and what's the final law? The problem sometimes with yeshiva guys is someone will ask them a question, someone will ask us a question, and they'll want to know the final halacha, and we'll start explaining the whole halachic ramifications, and it takes us a while before we get to the final halacha. But let's start with the final halacha. So what I will be doing, there's many customs with this, many customs of when to light the Chanukah lights. So I'm going to say what I'll be doing, and I'll say also some other customs. So we mentioned that shkia, sunset is 4:31. So I will be lighting at 20 minutes after shkia, which is 4:51. So now, and the reason is because according to many opinions, that's when night starts. Now, the lights have to last, we said, until 30 minutes after Tseis. So that is 5:43. So that means I will be lighting at 4:51. Again, this is for the first night of Chanukah in Manalapan. 4:51, which is 20 minutes after sunset. And the lights will have to last until 5:43, which is 52 minutes after 3 stars come out. Now, what's important to know is that if you're lighting, that's fine and great if you're lighting with oil, because oil lasts for a very long time. But the Chanukah candles that they sell actually don't last that long. I did an experiment the other night, and it's going to change based on how many Chanukah candles, but I used Rokeach Chanukah candles and tested how long they lasted. They lasted between 32 and 41 minutes. So if you're going to light with candles at the time that I mentioned, it's not going to last the 52 minutes you need because they only last 32 to 41 minutes. So when's the best time to light if you're using candles? So that would be Tseis. You should light when 3 stars come out, which is 5:13 on the first night of Chanukah. And then they only have to last for a half hour until 5:43, and all of the candles should be able to last that long. Now, you might want to check before, because I did just check one brand. I didn't do an exhaustive study. So that's that. Now, an issue comes up if you're using wax candles when you light on Shabbos, because we can't light that late on Shabbos. The Chanukah lights on Shabbos have to be lit before sundown, usually before candle lighting. So candle lighting on Shabbos Chanukah this year is 4:13. So if you light at 4:13, they still have to last a half hour after 3 stars come out. So that means they have to last for about 90 minutes. So your candles that only last 32 minutes obviously ain't going to make it. So what do? So one option is you can use oil for the night of Shabbos Chanukah, and you light before 4:13, which is candle lighting, or you can even use Shabbos candles, which generally last a very long time. But you shouldn't use the Chanukah candles that only last for a little over a half hour. But Shabbos candles, if you use them, they should last for that long. And again, it's worth it to test it. And again, it's important to remember, if you don't have that amount of Shabbos candles, to fulfill the mitzvah, you can just use one candle. That's all you need to fulfill the mitzvah. That which we light many candles each night, that's just to fulfill the mitzvah in the most optimum way. Now, some people, okay, fine. That was Shabbos. Now, if you didn't light at that optimum time, let's say you're still at work or you're out, so we're going to discuss later that you can still light all night, and we'll discuss in a few days. There'll be some differences if you can make with a blessing. You might have to wake your family up so that people are around, because we are lenient nowadays in this respect, because now that we light in the houses, we aren't so strict to require that people necessarily be in the streets. But we'll talk about in a few days what is the halacha if a person did not light at this optimum time, because the halacha that I'm saying now is the optimum time. So again, many light, this is what I'm personally doing, many light about 20 minutes after sunset, or even a variant of that. Some say 10 minutes, some say 13 to 18 after sunset. So that'll be, for me, about 4:51. And the candles have to last a half hour after 3 stars comes out, which is going to be about until 5:43, which is about 52 minutes. If you are using wax candles, you shouldn't light that early because they're not going to last long enough. You should light 5:13 or maybe even a little later. And on Shabbos, though, which we have to light earlier, we have to light before candle lighting, which is 4:13, one should not use the regular wax candles. Now, if that was confusing and if there were a lot of details, and if you want to call me to discuss exactly when you should light, if you have any questions or want to clarify, you can send me an email, shaulrosenthal@gmail.com, or you can give me a call, 908-692-9733, 908-692-9733, and I want to wish everybody a happy Chanukah.